And we're good.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that introduction. And thank you all so much for being here, letting me talk with you a little bit tonight about the Pressbooks Public tool, which is a really neat digital self-publishing tool that's available through Fairfax County Public Library. As Renee mentioned, my name is Emily, and I'm with the Biblio board team, the kind of group behind this tool, as well as other local author resources available through public libraries all across North America. And today we'll be going over this Pressbooks Public tool. And as we're walking through everything, if you have any questions at all, if you want to go ahead and put those in the chat box there, we'll be sure to kind of monitor that and address things as we go. Everyone should be able to see my screen here at the moment. And to help with that, make that be the focus, I'm going to go ahead and turn off my video here for now. And again, as I mentioned, today we'll be walking through this Pressbooks Public tool, which allows you to turn your manuscript into a professional quality book file in the file format of your choosing, whether that's an ebook file or a print-ready PDF that you can send off to a print-on-demand distributor or a small press without having to deal with paying them extra to format and design the file for you. It really puts the whole kind of process at your fingertips from the very beginning of the kind of conception of an idea for a written work all the way through to the actual book file creation. And tonight here, we'll start with just a kind of general introduction to Pressbook. And then from there, we'll actually walk through the entire process of creating a practice book. And while we're walking through that in just a moment here, you'll see that Renee will actually be sharing some practice book resource materials. So if you'd like to follow right along and create the same practice book, you are definitely able to, or if you'd like to just download those resources and familiarize yourself with the tool later on and create a practice book, I definitely recommend downloading those little items. And we'll talk more about that in a moment here. But to start, like I mentioned, we'll kind of kick things off with an overview of the tool, kind of in general. Like I mentioned, Pressbooks is a free self-publishing resource available through your library that allows you to make professional quality book files with no limits or constraints. You can make as many different books in as many different file formats and editions as you might like, all of course with no costs, watermarks, limitations, or anything like that. And the really great thing about the Pressbooks tool is that it's really accessible in the sense that it doesn't require any advanced tech or design knowledge whatsoever. You really just need to have internet access and something you'd like to write about or have already written about. And it's also accessible in the sense that it's open to authors of all genres, whether you're maybe putting together an academic work, a poetry collection, a full-length novel, or anything in between. And it's also available to authors and writers, no matter where you're at in the writing process. So whether you're maybe in the midst of participating in National Novel Writing Month, and are just getting started writing a new work, starting to put words down, or you have multiple completed manuscripts, or again, anywhere in between. There are a couple different easy ways for you to get your work into your Pressbooks account and get it ready to be formatted and designed exactly how you'd like. And with the Pressbooks tool, while there are quite a few different options for customizing your book formatting and layout, depending on your preferences, kind of the basic process for creating a book with this tool is really simple and does not entail too many steps at all, as you can see here. So aside from the kind of hard part of actually writing your work, again, the steps for getting that work into your Pressbooks account and getting it formatted and ready to export really aren't too complicated at all here. So the first thing you'll do is to set up a Pressbooks account or profile. And that's very straightforward, and we'll show that again here in a moment. All you'll need to do is provide your email address, which is just for password recovery that's not shared with anyone else, and set up a username and a password. And from there, you can log in from anywhere at all, as often as you might like. And then once you're ready to go ahead and create your first book in your account, you'll go ahead and set up your book, put a little placeholder title, get your content in there. And again, there are a couple different ways to do that, which we'll talk about more in just a moment here. And then from there, you're able to decide how you'd like your book to appear in terms of the design and layout. And with that, you're able to choose from our selection of pre-made design templates or themes. With just a click of a button, you can apply one of these themes or designs to your entire work. And once you've done that, you'll want to kind of start wrapping up by adding a couple additional details for your book in general. Maybe you want to change around that placeholder title you entered at the very beginning, add any additional contributors, your cover image, perhaps a description. And once you've done that, you can actually go ahead and export your book file in the format of your choosing. And once again, since Pressbooks is totally free and unlimited, there's plenty of room for kind of trial and error here. For example, if you export your book file the first time, you open up your ebook and you decide that maybe you don't really like the theme that you picked, or you notice there's a typo, you can just go back into your account and update and re-export as often as you might like. And that's really kind of an important thing to note there, since oftentimes you're going through a vanity press or a kind of paying a consultant to help with the creation of your actual book files. Oftentimes there can be some hidden fees with any changes or different file formats, watermarks. This again is totally unlimited and completely at your fingertips. And to get started with Pressbooks, like I mentioned, the first thing you're going to want to do is set up your Pressbooks account. And to find Pressbooks, you can discover it straight from the Fairfax County Public Library website in the lovely new Writers Corner section on the Create page, which I'll go ahead and, I think Renee actually already put that link in the chat box there. If you go to the local authors page, you'll see that Create option, which will give you kind of instructions on how to log in here. And once you go ahead and select the Pressbooks public page, you'll want to select to connect through your local library. And at that point, that's when, if you don't already have an account or profile, you'll go ahead and create one here. And again, with that, all you need to do is provide your email address for password recovery and create a username and a password. If we have anyone kind of following along who is planning on creating the practice book along with me here, I'll give you a moment to set up your account. For those of you who might be outside of Fairfax County at the moment, you will need to enter your library card number. For those of you that are in Fairfax County and have your location option enabled in your browser, it should automatically identify you as being a Fairfax County Public Library patron, and you'll just be able to automatically create your account. But again, I'll give everyone everyone a moment here in case anyone is planning on creating this practice book with us. And while anyone is doing that, if we have any questions so far, definitely feel free to toss them in the chat there, and we can be sure to address them before we kind of dive in any further. Like I mentioned before, we really want to make sure you have all the information that you need to really hit the ground running with this tool, especially with it being National Novel Writing Month and Indie Author Day having just occurred. It seems like the perfect time to have these kind of sessions. And I'm not seeing any questions come through here at the moment. I'll give anyone who's setting up their account just another minute here. And I'll also make sure I share the link directly to the Pressbook, the Fairfax Pressbooks page here. And while we're giving everyone just another moment to set up their account, we'll also be sure to share, after we wrap up here, links to some examples of existing books that have been made by authors using the Pressbooks public tool, just so you can kind of get a feel for what some different genres can look like with this tool here. As you can see with this was 2020 example. We have a lot of libraries and writers groups that are doing things like cookbooks. And I see, Charlotte, you had a question there asking, what does it mean by name of the organization? Let me just double check that I'm sure what you're talking about here. Let's see. Where are you seeing the name of organization option? You should be able to select, or it should automatically be selected as Fairfax County Public Library. But if you're not seeing that, definitely let me know here. Let's see. Yes, you should be able to, there should be or should either default to, or you should see the option to select Fairfax County Public Library. If you're not seeing that, it might be because either your location is not being kind of identified if you are in Fairfax County. But if not, you should see the option to enter your library card number. Okay, yes, if that's all that you're seeing, you can give it a try typing it in and seeing if that works. But if it doesn't, definitely let me know and we can kind of troubleshoot that further after we hop off here. Okay, wonderful. Great, so it looks like everyone's been able to, those who are interested are able to make their accounts. And for tonight's little walkthrough, I'm just going to log in to the Fairfax staff account here. And with this, I've already a few books have already been made under this account. So when I log in here, I'll be taken, as you can see, right on into the most recent book that's been created in this account. However, for those who are setting up your account for the first time, you'll be taken to this kind of launch page here, where you'll be prompted to name the first book that you'll be making. And you'll see the first thing it'll ask you to do is to label your web book address, which I know can sound like a bit of a foreign term there, but that's really just the URL that you'll be working off of for this specific book in your account. And if you keep your book fully private and keep your account fully private, this will be visible just to your eyes only here. So that can be whatever makes sense to you. And the book title, you are able to edit later on. So that can even just be a placeholder title here. And once you have those filled out, if we go ahead and select to create our book, we'll be taken right back on in to that dashboard that we saw just a moment ago. And for those, for anyone who might be familiar with WordPress, this will look very familiar to you since Pressbooks is a WordPress template. However, for those who are not familiar with WordPress, there's no worries at all. You'll still be able to kind of use all the functionalities of Pressbooks anyway. And here in your dashboard with your new book that we just created, you'll see that Pressbooks kind of automatically sets your book up in this kind of default structure of front matter, main body, and back matter. And that's just to help you get started so you feel like you have some loose bones to work with, like you're not kind of setting everything up from scratch. And this is totally malleable as well. So for example, if you're doing an academic work and plan on having 20 different types of front matter, back matter, that is no problem at all. If you're doing a poetry collection and you don't need chapters per se, that's also no problem. This is, again, completely malleable there. Excuse me. But now that we've set up our book, we're actually ready to go ahead and start putting our content in here, which, like I mentioned before, there are a couple different ways to go about adding content to your book here in Pressbook. So we'll want to go ahead on over to the Organize tab here, where again, you'll see those kind of placeholder components. And for those who are maybe just getting started, kind of putting words down, if you'd like, you can actually write your entire book directly into your Pressbooks account. So here, if I go into my chapter 1 placeholder, again, you can write, edit, format, proofread, all within your Pressbooks account here, being sure to save any changes that you've made. However, for those who maybe already have a work in progress or a completed manuscript, you're of course definitely not required or encouraged to retype everything. There are two other ways to get existing content into your account here. One of those is the kind of tried and trusted copy and paste method, where you can go again right into your chapter or part and just copy and paste your content straight from your external document, repeating that until all of your chapters or parts have been added. Now, for those who might have a really lengthy existing manuscript, or who might just find the copy and paste method to be a little cumbersome, the other way to get existing content into your book here, and also probably the most popular way for those who do have a completed work, is the option to actually import your entire existing document. So with that, we would go down to our Tools tab here, where you'll see the Import option is the first option you kind of have. And that will take you right on over to being able to import your entire existing document. You just select the file type that you're importing. I would say 99% of users will import a Word document. You do also have the ability to import an open office document if that's what you're working off of. If we have any Mac users on the line, you currently are unable to import a Pages document. However, you can always just save that Pages document as a Word document to import that way. But one of the important things, or two actually important things that you definitely want to make sure to do before you go ahead and actually import the document, and I'll go ahead and share my practice Word document here if I'm able. Bear with me for just a moment. Here we are. Now everyone should be able to see my little practice Peter Pan document here. And as I was saying, there are two kind of important things that we recommend doing with your document before you go ahead and import. One is we recommend making sure that you go through and ensure that all of your kind of body text is identified as, quote, normal or body using the styles menu of Word. I happen to have pages open here, so it looks slightly different, but the concept is still the same. You want to make sure that that's identified as, again, body or normal. And that will kind of strip away any hidden coding or formatting that might appear a little wonky in Pressbooks when you import. But that can, of course, if you forget or opt not to normalize your body text, you can always correct that in Pressbooks, no problem. But the other kind of a bit more important recommendation that we have before you import a document is we recommend also going through and making sure that all of your chapter titles or part titles are identified as headings using that same kind of styles menu. So rather than going through and just seeing that they're bold or centered, going through and making sure that all of your chapter titles are identified as headings, that will ensure that when you import your document into Pressbooks, that Pressbooks is able to automatically identify each of these different chapters or parts as their own individual entities, which makes it, of course, much easier to go through and proofread and double check once you're in Pressbooks. You're not dealing with a huge block of text. And it also ensures that Pressbooks is able to automatically identify each component when the tool is creating your table of contents. So all book files that are exported out of Pressbooks automatically include a table of contents, whether that's an interactive table of contents or an eBook where each chapter or part is a link to that specific page, or a static table of contents for a print-ready PDF. Pressbooks automatically handles that for you. And that can oftentimes be kind of a hidden, tricky element if you're trying to format a book file on your own. So back here in our import tab, now that we've gone through, double check that our document is okay. And for anyone who is kind of following along using that textbook text document that Renee made available to download in that practice book folder, that document is already kind of all set. All the chapters are already identified as headings. The body text is set to normal. So if you'd like to continue following along, you can just go ahead and upload that textbook text document, just like I'm doing here. You select that file after you've chosen Word as your import type, select your file, and then go ahead and import. It'll just take a moment to upload, at which point you'll see all of your different chapters present here. And you can pick and choose which ones you'd like to import, or let's go ahead and say I'd like to import all of these, select them all. And I'll go ahead and import my entire selection here. And you'll notice I just also checked that show imported content in web option there. Right now I have my privacy settings set for this book to fully private. So allowing these items to be visible on the web just allows me within my account to preview them before I export a file, in case anyone was wondering about what that option is there. You have, again, total control over kind of the privacy setting of each individual book in your account. And here, once we go ahead and import our selection, it'll just take a moment for those all to be imported, at which point, as you can see here, we're brought right on back to that Organize tab that we were in previously. And here you can see, in addition to those placeholder components that Pressbook automatically created, all of my new chapters are now present here as well. And when using this method of getting any existing content into your account, you want to make sure to remember to delete those placeholder components before you export. So I'll go ahead and take care of those now. Additionally, at this point, we'd probably go through the various chapters or parts that we've imported, double checking that everything looks okay, making any changes as needed. You can also, if you'd like, you can incorporate media components as well, both illustrations and photographs, as well as audio and video elements if you do plan on exporting an ebook. And the audio and video components tend to come up more when people are doing things like educational resources and things like that. But the process for adding them is pretty much the same. Here I can select add media. I'll go ahead and grab just a little placeholder image. Or you can also, if you're more of a planner, you can go into your media library from the very beginning and kind of upload any and all images you think you might want. So you can have them all there together. But here I have my little practice image. I can add a description, alternative text, size, and I can go ahead and insert into my chapter. And you can, of course, further customize how you'd like your image to appear, how you'd like it to be oriented amongst the text, edit your size accordingly, however you might like. One thing to note with images with Pressbook is that Pressbook is not ideal for things like children's picture books, especially things like board books, where you would plan to have the entire page be an illustration or image with text laid over it. It is possible, you just have to kind of use a bit of a workaround. You'd need to place your text over your image or illustration before you add it into Pressbook. So it is possible, but not the smoothest kind of use there. So I just wanted to note that in case we have any children's book authors on here with us. But once you've back here and organized, once you've kind of gone through everything, double check that all your different chapters are looking okay, they're all in the correct order, reorder as needed. At that point, we're actually ready to go ahead and get into the kind of creative component of deciding how you'd like your book to appear in terms of the design and theme. And I see that there was a question here asking about a search function. And Bill, correct me if I'm misunderstanding your question. There is the ability to search throughout your entire book and do search and replace options here. There isn't an option currently to search if you have multiple books created in your account. There isn't an option to search across all of your books. However, you are able to search across one book at a time if that's what you're asking about there. And if I can elaborate further, or if that was not what you were looking for, definitely let me know and I can kind of follow up as we continue here. Okay, perfect. Great, but as I was saying, once you have everything all kind of squared away here in your organized tab, everything looking exactly how you'd like in terms of your text, to start on that design side of things, we just go on down to the appearance tab here, where you'll see there are a handful, just over 20 different pre-made themes for you to select from. So these pre-made design templates. You can kind of browse on through, get a glimpse into the theme details, maybe what genres it's best suited for, any design quirks to be aware of. Or if you happen to know you're writing a romance novel, you can do a quick keyword search there. And Pressbooks will also provide some suggestions if you'd prefer. But once you've found the theme that you like, you can go ahead and just select to activate. And with that, that theme or design will be applied to your entire manuscript. So kind of effectively designing your whole book, which is a click of a button there. And this is probably one of the most valuable features here in Pressbooks. This is really what can take an existing work that might be looking like a Word document, it's just been saved as the PDF. This is what can really transform that into looking like a professionally designed book that can stand alongside traditionally published work. And again, since Pressbooks is totally unlimited, if you are anything like me and are having trouble deciding between these different themes, you can always apply one, export your book file, come back, apply your second choice, re-export, do some side-by-side comparisons, some A/B testing with early readers. Since again, you can export your books as often as you might like. But once you have the theme applied that you like, at least for the time being, you can also kind of customize that a bit further as well. You go down into the theme options tab here. And for those who might be following along, creating your own practice book, you can choose any theme you might like here. I just happen to pick this first one. However, the theme options will vary slightly depending on the theme that you've selected. But in general, these theme options are kind of broken up by different file format types. So global options, of course, apply to all file formats. And you can apply some customization here. For example, with the practice book document that I imported, all of my chapter titles already had chapter numbers included in those titles. So here I would want to go ahead and select not to display part and chapter numbers, so I don't have duplicates there. I want to make sure to go ahead and save that change. And beyond the global options tab here, you can apply some more format specific options. Web options just apply to your book on Pressbooks, which if you're keeping it fully private, will be visible to your eyes only. PDF options apply to print ready PDF files, which are what you would export for a book file that's kind of formatted in the correct dimensions and specifications to send off to a local press, printer, print on demand distributor like Ingram Spark. And so here you can get a bit more specific with that file, things like page size, if you want pocket size, totally up to you there. And again, you want to make sure to save any changes that you've made. And then the last tab here you'll see is just for ebook options, which there aren't quite as many here. One that often kind of comes up is the ability to reduce image size and quality. If you happen to have a very image kind of heavy book and you want to reduce the size of your overall book file, you can easily do so here. And again, wanting to make sure that you save any changes that you've made. And at that point, we're actually almost ready to go ahead and export our book file. The last thing we want to make sure to do would be to go up into our book Info tab here and provide some additional details for our work. So for those of you that have downloaded that test book folder that Renee shared, in addition to the test book text document, you'll see there's also a little book info document and a front and back matter document, which we kind of skipped over here. But that book info document applies to what we're doing here at the moment. But you can also fill it in with any placeholder information as you might like. This is where you can change around that placeholder title that you entered at the very beginning. You can change your author name as well as add additional contributors. You definitely want to make sure to change your author name since it will default to your username. As you can see here, right now it's just saying Fairfax County, all one word is the author. So to change that, we just select create new contributor. Go ahead and add your name or your pen name. Any additional information you might like, and go ahead and get that contributor added. Then we can pop right on back into the book info tab again. We're here, if I go into authors, in addition to the existing Fairfax County name, I can switch it on over to my preferred author name there. Again, save any changes that we're making. And then beyond that, you can provide as much or as little detail as you might like here in terms of the different fields you'd like to fill out. And please, if anyone who is following along, making your own practice book, please let me know if I'm going too fast here, or if there, again, any questions pop up. As I said here with this book info tab, you can really fill out as much or as little as you might like. A couple important fields that I like to point out. One would be the cover image section here. And this is where you can, if you already have a cover image, you can go ahead and upload that here. For those who downloaded the practice book folder, you'll see there's a Peter Pan cover image there, which I'll go ahead and add here. Here we go. And again, saving any changes that we've made. So again, for those who do already have an ebook cover, this is where you would go ahead and upload that. For print ready exports, since any publisher or print on demand distributor will request that you submit your book file and your cover file separate, you wouldn't need to upload your print ready cover here. So just something to note. But for those who maybe don't have a cover image quite yet, it's no problem at all. There's actually a cover image generator that's built right on in to the Pressbooks tool. If we go over to export, you'll see this cover generator option. And with that, you're able to actually create both an ebook cover, which is of course just that front cover, as well as a print ready cover, which would be that front, spine, and back cover. And the nice thing about this cover generator tool is that it's of course built right on in to Pressbook, so you don't have to go searching around on the web for another tool or service. You don't need to hire anyone. And you can be confident knowing that it'll provide you with a professional looking cover, clean, in the correct dimensions and specifications that you need. It's not going to provide you with the most kind of ornate or detail kind of oriented cover, but it can be nice even if you're just looking for a placeholder or a very simple cover in the meantime. You can kind of take care of all of that here. And again, you can export either an ebook cover, which is just that front cover, as well as a PDF cover, which would be that print ready cover, which again is the front, spine, and back. And if you do export an ebook cover here, or if you already have one, either way, you want to make sure in your book info tab that you upload that in your cover image section. Another really kind of important section or field here in the book info tab would be the copyright section here. And one thing to definitely keep in mind or be aware of with Pressbook is that you have total and complete ownership of any and all book files that you export from Pressbook, as well as any and all content that you put into your Pressbooks account. And along those kind of lines, all book file exports from Pressbooks all automatically include a copyright notice page. And by default, that will have just a generic kind of auto-generated, all rights reserved notice with your author name and year. However, if you have any custom text that you'd like to apply, you can go ahead and enter that here in this copyright notice field, and that will override that generic kind of auto-generated copyright notice. And additionally, you can also change around your license type altogether. For example, this practice book that we're using, Peter Pan, that version is now in the public domain, so we could change that around. Again, totally up to you, just depending on the needs of the work, the specific work that you're creating. And beyond that, you can, again, like I said, fill out as many or as few of these fields as you might like. And you can always come back and add additional information as it comes to you, update existing information as needed, and then just be able to re-export your book file, again, as often as you might like, especially in terms of your ISBN. If you perhaps don't have an ISBN yet for the book that you're working on, you can still go ahead and export. And then if you do end up acquiring an ISBN, whether you acquire multiple, one for print, one for ebook, you can come back in and fill those in kind of accordingly. Pressbooks does not automatically assign you an ISBN. Some of you who might be familiar with Amazon KDP, or formerly CreateSpace, might be familiar with their process of assigning a book an ISBN. Pressbooks does not do that, since you still retain total and complete ownership of your work. You are still listed as the publisher. With KDP and CreateSpace, if they assign you an ISBN, they'll always be listed as the publisher of your book. So just something to kind of keep in mind there. And if anyone is looking for more information on how to acquire ISBNs and recommended practices, I recommend going to Bowker. It's kind of the authority on the subject, and that's BOWKER. If you go to their website, you can kind of see all the different options and packages there. But back here in Pressbooks for our little practice book, once we've provided all of our book info details there, we're actually ready to go ahead and export this book. If you'd like, you can take a look at your book on the web in Pressbooks first, if you want to just double check that everything is looking okay. Again, there's no risk in exporting early and coming back and making changes. But if you'd like, at any point in time, up here on the masthead, you'll see your book title. Here's my little Peter Pan book. And you'll see the option to visit your book, where you can see it just in the Pressbooks e-reader, just to make sure that you remembered to add your cover, change your author name, you're happy with how your different chapters are looking, you're liking your theme. And if everything looks okay to you, we can go on back and actually go ahead and export our book in the file format of our choosing. So if we go on down here to export, we'll select the format that you'd like. The kind of primary option would be a print-ready PDF, which again is formatted to be sent off to a print-on-demand distributor or local publisher, small press. You can also do a digital PDF, as well as an EPUB file. An EPUB is going to be universal ebook file format. Previously, you would have the option to export a MOBI file, which used to be that Kindle-specific file format, but Amazon has since started phasing that out. So here, once you've selected the file formats that you'd like, we can go ahead and export, and it'll just take a moment for our files to be generated, and they'll appear here at the bottom of our dashboard. And at that point, you can go ahead and download your files. And from there, since you have total ownership, you can go on to sell, market, distribute them however you might like. And again, if you happen to open up your EPUB, your PDF, and you realize you really don't like that theme, or there's a glaring typo on the second page, no worries at all. You can just pop right on back in to your Pressbooks account, go back into organize, make any changes, or apply a different theme, as well as being able to revisit other books that you've created in your account, as well as, of course, create new works also. So once you get started in here, as you can see, it's definitely a very hands-on tool. But again, there's plenty of room, kind of trial and error. There's no limit to the number of files you can export. You can log in as often as you like, and create as many books and as many different editions as you might like. And that practice book, those practice book resources, can be a really nice way to get yourself more familiar with this tool before you dive on in with your own content, which you can, of course, definitely do from the get-go if you'd prefer. And while you're using this tool, from your Pressbooks dashboard, at the very bottom here, you can always find this guides and tutorials link, which I'll go ahead and open up in another page here. And with that, this kind of support page, you'll find just a whole host of resources, including an incredibly comprehensive user guide, which I definitely recommend. It's a really great resource. It's frequently updated as new features and releases are added to the Pressbooks tool. It was also, as you can see, made using Pressbooks. And this guide contains everything from general kind of step-by-step overview all the way through to kind of the more nuanced details of if you're doing something like an academic or educational work, adding footnotes, adding mathematical notations, tables, text boxes, and so forth. So you can browse through the different chapters and parts there, or you can also always do a quick search. And I see that someone mentioned they have a poetry book right now. There is a whole specific section for applying special formatting, in particular to things like poetry work. So they'll even provide you with the exact HTML if you want to copy and paste it. Definitely trying to make it as easy as possible there. And there are also FAQ sections, the community forum, which has a whole host of articles that are frequently being posted. And if you're more of a visual learner, they have all different kinds of video tutorials available on their YouTube page that you can access straight from this support page here. However, if you happen to have a very specific question or kind of hitting a particular roadblock, especially when you're getting started, you can also always, if you go up into the top left corner here where that PB icon is, you'll see that there is a contact option. And that contact option comes straight to myself and my colleague, Kara. So you're not talking to a computer. There are people on the other side of that email, and we're always happy to walk you through anything, hop on the phone, kind of troubleshoot with you depending on what your questions or issues might be. So definitely don't ever hesitate to reach out. Like I mentioned at the beginning, we want to make sure you have all the kind of information that you need to get started using this tool. And you'll also find a lot of these resources on the Fairfax Writers Corner page as well. A couple different links to those resources are here also. And I know we're kind of coming towards the end of our time here, but I see there are a couple questions coming through, and I know some of them are more kind of specific in nature. With any questions, or I'll go ahead and put my email address in here in case anyone would like to reach out. Or again, later on, if you don't happen to have this email saved, you could also always reach out with that contact option here as well. But I just shared my email address in there in case there are any follow-ups. And I'm scrolling back up on some of these questions here. So I see the question about adding watermarks, and that's a great question. And the ironic thing about that is through the library subscription, you have access to the kind of highest Pressbooks account. So there are no restrictions. You have access to all of the premium features, which includes no watermarks being applied. For other people who have a personal kind of direct account with Pressbooks that they are paying for, there are limitations where watermarks are added. But as part of your kind of premium free account through the library, watermarks are fully removed. I can look in further a little bit to see if there is an option for adding them back. And I can respond with Renee with that answer. But like I said, I'll double check on that for you. But as far as I know right now, currently you wouldn't be able to add them back there. And then I see another question about adding charts, tables, and graphics, which yes, we went over, you can definitely do that. And that's also something that there's some more kind of specific instructions and details on in that support guide as well, in terms of having it oriented around your text, having captions and whatnot. And I see another question about the search themes vary by genre. I think I might need a little more clarification on that question. With the themes kind of in general, I believe you should be able to do a keyword search for poetry. It'll come up with a suggestion for you there. And depending on what theme you select, that will kind of slightly impact the theme options that you have available. However, otherwise, the theme options, I'm sorry to clarify, the theme options will vary slightly for each file format, depending on what theme you've selected. But those are all, the differences are all also spelled out in the support guide in case you want to see like a comprehensive list there. And I know that you mentioned that you're converting a book that's currently in print format and you'd like to change it over to ebook format. I will note that you're unable to import a PDF. But if you have a document version, you can easily, as we did here tonight, import that document. Or again, you can use the trusted kind of copy and paste method as well. And I see a couple other questions asking about the difference between some of the file formats there. And Epub, like I said, is the kind of universal ebook format. So if you're looking to have it up on Apple Books or Barnes & Noble Online, Amazon. An EPUB rather, that format will be acceptable. For PDF, the two different PDF options, a print-ready PDF will be formatted with kind of crop marks, all the correct kind of dimensions and specifications that are required for the standard print-on-demand requirements. That way you don't have to pay the distributor or press to format it for you. And then a digital PDF would be preferred if you plan on, for example, if you're doing a graphic novel and you want to make sure that each of those pages is fixed so that the images aren't distorted or transferred onto different pages. Since an EPUB, the pages will be flexible depending on what reader or what platform the person is reading your book on, whether it's on their phone, on their iPhone, or if they're on their Kindle. The pages will be kind of flexible, also depending on what size font they're using. Whereas a digital PDF, the pages are fixed. So again, better for things like graphic novels, for example. And I know we're kind of coming to the end of our time here. So I definitely want to be respectful of everyone's schedules and everything. But I put my email there in the chat box, which you are more than welcome to reach out with any questions at all. But otherwise, before we kind of sign off here, were there any last questions? Or Renee, did you have anything I missed here?
No, thank you very much, Emily. That was very informative. I'm excited about writing a book. Thank you so much for that.
Definitely, and there's so many fun ways to use this tool, whether it's a novel or whether it's, like I said, something like a cookbook. We even had one of our Minnesota libraries did a youth poetry contest about Adam Thielen. So there's all genres and ages of authors kind of being included here to use this tool, which is always fun to see.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for attending. I hope to see you on November 30th at 7:30 for how to get your ebooks into public libraries with the Indie Author Project. I've put the link to the program information. Please click on that link and register, and we'll see you on November 30th. Thank you so much, Emily. Have a good night.
Thank you all. Take care.